Hello everyone. In this session we will see the functioning of the inventory and the pharmacy module. To do so, type in the URL and log in through the inventory manager's username and password. On successful login, the following screen will appear. Click on Main Store Drugs on the navigation menu. What you see now in front of you is the interface of a main store. Now, there are three important functions that a main store does. First is to maintain the stock balance. Second is to receive drugs into the main store. And thirdly is to transfer these drugs to the various sub-stores in the hospital. Now there are four tabs on the interface of the screen as you see. The first tab is View Stock Balance. In this tab, all the drugs that are present in the main store at any given time are present on this interface with the name, category, formulation, current quantity and the reorder point. Now the next tab is View Stock Balance Expiry. All those drugs that have expired will then begin to appear in View Stock Balance Expiry, and they will not be available in the main store to transfer to the various sub-stores. This is just for the information of the inventory manager to know what is the stock balance and what all drugs have expired at any given time in the main store. The next tab is Receipts to General Store. Now this is where the main store stock will be updated. After the drugs have physically come to the main store, the inventory manager will make an entry in the system. This is done by clicking on Add Receipt. When you click on Add Receipt, the following screen will appear. Now here, choose the category of the drug which has to be receipted into the main store. Choose in the drug the formulation and then type in the following information. Say the quantity of the drug which has to be received, the unit price, tax, the batch number, the company's name, the date of manufacture, the date of expiry, the date of receipt, and the source from where the drug has been received. And then click on Add to Slip. Many drugs can be added to a single receipt slip, which is done by again selecting a drug from the left side of the screen and adding it to slip. And similarly filling in the other information like quantity, price, company's name, etc. Date of manufacture, date of expiry, receipt date, and from where has the drug been received. And similarly can be shifted to the right side of the screen. Now in this receipt slip, many drugs can be added. After adding all the drugs, click on Finish Receipts this slip. Otherwise, the slip can also be cleared by clicking on Clear this slip, or can be printed by clicking on Print this slip. So right now I'll click on Finish Receipts this slip. The system will prompt in the user to put in a valid description to this receipt. And then click on Save. Once you click on Save, the drugs that have been added in the receipt slip will then add on to the stock balance of the main store. Let us see how. Click on View Stock Balance and you will see 100 added drugs for crocin and 100 added drugs for Stemetil. So the current quantity from 900 has changed to 1000. So this process can be repeated several times after physical procuring of drugs into the main store. The last tab here is Transfer from General Store. This I will demonstrate you once I put in an order from a sub-store and then see how the transfer from a main store to sub-store takes place. Now let us see how is an order placed from a sub-store and how does the order get processed from a sub-store to main store and then from main store to sub-store. To see so, we log in through a sub-store's username and password. Now let us log in through pharmacy. On successful login, you will see the following screen. Click on the pharmacy on the navigation menu. What you see now in front of you is the interface of a pharmacy screen or any sub-store. The first two tabs have similar functionality of View Stock Balance. This shows the stock balance in a sub-store at any point of time, and View Stock Balance Expiry is to see all those drugs that have been expired in the sub-store at any given time. Now apart from this, the pharmacy or any other sub-store has two major functions. First, to indent drugs from the main store, and then to dispense these drugs to various patients in the hospital. First, we will see how is an indent sent to a main store and how is the whole thing processed. To do so, click on Indent Drugs. Here, click on Add Indent Slip. The following screen will begin to appear. Select the category, drug and the formulation of the drug that the pharmacy wishes to indent. And the quantity that the pharmacy must indent. And then click on Add to Indent Slip. As we also saw in the main store, many drugs could be added to one slip. The same is the case here. As many drugs that the pharmacy wishes to indent can be put in one single indent slip. Once the indent slip is ready, click on Save and Send. You can also print this slip or clear this indent if you think that this indent slip is just made for test purpose or any other purpose. So right now click on Save and Send. The system will prompt in the user to put in a name of this indent slip and select a main store to which the indent must be sent to. Because there are various main stores functioning in the hospital, so it should be made clear at this point that to which main store is the pharmacy intending to send this particular indent. then click on Save. Now what you see on the screen is the name of the indent, the date that it has been created on, and the status, which is very important here. It says sent. Sent means the status, the sent status means that this indent has been successfully sent from a sub-store, say a pharmacy, to the main store for various processing transactions to be held in the main store now. So let us log out to the pharmacy and see in the main store how this indent will be then transferred. On the interface of a main store, click on Transfer from General Store. Now here what you see is all the indents from various sub-store that the main store drug has received. So right now we just sent indent on 15th of June and the status here is wait process, which means the main store needs to process this indent first. This can be done by clicking on Process Indent. The main store can either refuse this indent by clicking on Refuse this indent or transfer the quantity to the sub-store. Now here on the screen we see the quantity that has been indented and the quantity that is available in the main store. Accordingly, the transfer can be made. The transfer quantity can be less than the quantity indented but cannot be more. After putting in the transfer quantity, click on Transfer. A printout of the transfer receipt can also be taken by clicking on Print, otherwise click on Close. Now the status changes from wait process to done in the main store, which means the transfer has taken place from the main store and the stock balance is correspondingly adjusted. Now we see 900 tablets of Crocin and 900 tablets of Stemetil in the main store. Now let us log out from the main store drugs and log in again through pharmacy and process this indent in the pharmacy. On the pharmacy's main store or any sub-store's interface, click on Indent Drugs, and what you see here, the status from sent has changed to receipt, and now the sub-store or the pharmacy in our case needs to process this indent. This can be done by clicking on Process Indent. The quantity indented was 100. The quantity transferred from the main store is 100. The sub-store can refuse this indent by clicking on Refuse this indent or can accept this indent by clicking on Accept this. Once this indent is accepted in the sub-store or pharmacy, the stock balance is then adjusted, which can be seen by clicking on View Stock Balance. Crocin and Stemetil, which were 300 before, have now changed to 400 and 400, which means the whole process of sending an indent and then receiving an indent has been done successfully. The similar way all the sub-stores will operate in sending indent and receiving indent. It is the very similar process that all the sub-stores in the hospital will then follow. Now let us see the order going from the patient's dashboard for drugs and how does the pharmacy issue drugs to patients. First, let us order a few drugs to a patient from the patient's dashboard. To do so, type in the URL and log in through a doctor's username and password. On successful login, the following screen will appear. Click on OPD on the navigation menu. Select a location. I will select an old patient from the system just for the matter of showing how is the drug ordered and processed in the pharmacy. The same process can be done for new, revisit, admitted, all patients. Now what you see in front of you is the patient's dashboard. Now here, entering a provisional diagnosis and outcome, as was also told before, are mandatory. So we will not proceed without putting in those. Here is a column to enter drugs. This is where the doctor can order drugs for the patient. The doctor will type in the name of the drug. As soon as he types, the system will generate a list of the similar drugs already available, and therefore it can be chosen from the drop down that appears. The formulation can be chosen. The frequency can be chosen, whether it's once daily, bi-daily, thrice a day, or a stat dose or SOS, whatever. The number of days that the doctor must put this patient for, and any comments that the doctor needs to enter at the time of prescribing of drugs. And then click on Add. Similarly, many drugs can be entered at the same time. Like this, I can enter multiple drugs at the time of ordering of drugs from the patient's dashboard. Once this is done and outcome and diagnosis has been successfully put, click on Conclude Visit. On clicking on Conclude Visit, the order which has been sent from the patient's dashboard will start to appear in the pharmacy. Now let us log out to Doctors and log in through the pharmacy's username and password and process this order for the patient. Now we will see the last 3 tabs in the pharmacy. All the orders that have come from the patient's dashboard will appear in the patient queue for drug orders. Please click on Patient Queue for drug orders. Select a date and click on Get Patients. Now all the patients that have been ordered drugs by the doctor will start to appear here. Click on either the name or the identifier of the patient. Click on the order ID. Now what you see in front of you is the order that a doctor has placed. Now the pharmacist needs to process this order. Each drug is processed separately by clicking on Process on the right side of the drug. It says that these are the quantity available for that particular drug, and then the pharmacist can put in an issue quantity and issue that drug to the patient. Now we see three tabs, three lines of the drugs for Crocin, which says that 200 drugs of one batch number and a separate date of manufacture are available, and then separate quantities with different batch numbers, different company's name and different date of manufactures are available. Now the pharmacist must see which drug to take out first and which drug to take out last, and that can be done by this interface itself. Now I see the first two are under short expiry. So then I must issue the quantity of drugs from the first category itself, because the third category is under longer expiry and this one is for short expiry. So this must be taken out first and this must be taken out later. So this is at the discretion of the pharmacist to decide of which batch and of which category should the drug be dispensed to the patient. So number of days is 5 and frequency is thrice in a day, so which means 15 drugs must be issued to the patient. So the pharmacist will type in 15 here and say click on issue. When I click on issue, the bill starts to populate. It says Crocin 15, number of quantity 15, and with price this has been added to the bill, and the bill will also start calculating the total amount that the patient needs to pay. Similarly, all the other drugs present on that slip should be processed by the pharmacist. In the similar way, a similar kind of interface appears for all those drugs which have been indented many times in the sub-store and carry a different company's name, a different date of manufacture and a different date of expiry. The pharmacist must choose diligently from which category should the quantity be subtracted from. Similarly, click on issue and the bill will start to populate here with the drug name, formulation, the quantity. This is the unit price, and the bill will start calculating a total amount of price that the patient must pay, which is 216. After this, click on finish. Once you click on finish, the drugs will be issued in the name of the patient and correspondingly the stock balance will be adjusted. Like you see here, Crocin is now 385 because I issued 15 drugs to a patient, and Stemetil is 395 because 5 drugs were issued to a particular patient. Now this flow is for all those patients who have been ordered drugs by the doctor from the patient's dashboard electronically in the system. There is one added functionality made in pharmacy, which is issue drug to patients. The pharmacist has this discretion of finding a patient in the system and then issuing drugs to that patient. This patient doesn't undergo the process of ordering drugs through a doctor, but it is at the discretion of the pharmacist to select a patient from the system and then issue drugs to that particular patient. But one precondition here is the patient must be registered in the system at the time of registration. This is done by clicking on Issue Drugs to Patient. Then click on Find Patient. The patient can be found in the system by either selecting the name or the identifier. Click on the name of the patient. The patient's name will start to appear here. Click on the category of the drug. Select the drug. Select the formulation. The system will show a similar kind of interface, and from here the pharmacist can issue the drug to the patient. The only difference in both the flows is one order has come from the patient's dashboard through a doctor, which is the ideal flow, but also the pharmacist has this discretion to select a patient from the system, a registered patient from the system, and issue drugs to the patient. This functionality is basically made keeping in mind the casualty cases and the cases where, and in the smaller dispensaries where the OPD module shall not be deployed, and in dispensaries where the doctor's role will be minimized and only registration and pharmacy will be functioning. So in those scenarios, this functionality will be of importance. Similarly, the issue quantity can be put in here and then click on Add to Issue Slip. Now, since this case is a malaria case and is free in the hospital, a zero bill will be generated for the patient. Click on Finish. The stock balance will be adjusted and 5 tablets of crocin will be adjusted in the name of the patient. There is one last functionality of a substore is to be able to issue drugs to account. Now there may be a case where there are pilferages, or there may be a case when a drug is not issued in the name of the patient. Say in the IPDs, it is not mandatory that the whole slip of a paracetamol is issued to the patient, but it is issued in the name of the IPD, and one tablet each can be given to different patients. So in that case, a functionality of issue drug to account can be used. The pharmacist or the substore user needs to create an account, which can be either for expired drugs, or if you have received, say, broken bottles in the pharmacy, or in the name of the entire indoor patient department if is issued, then they can be done by creating an account. After creating an account, it's a similar process. Select a category, select the name of the drug, select in the formulation. If it is not available in the pharmacy, the system will prompt to indent that drug. Otherwise, if it's available, the following interface will appear and can be issued to the account. The process is very similar, but that is done in the name of a patient and this is done in the name of account. Click on finish. After clicking on finish, the stock balance is correspondingly adjusted and 5 drugs have been issued to the indoor patient account for gynae ward. So this is how the pharmacy as well as the other sub-stores will function. What I've shown you is for drugs. The items like cotton rolls, linen also function in a very similar manner. They have exactly the same interface, but the only difference is that for items, the order will not come from the patient's dashboard. It will have the following functionality of view stock balance, indent items, issue items to account and issue items to patient. This is the functionality for items, but for drugs, it is important to have orders from the patient's dashboard and hence the functionality. Thank you. I hope this session was useful to you.